So my name is Gabs Hayes, and I am a lifestyle and mindset strategist. My mission is to help women with bold dreams change the way that they chase after them. And so that comes to life in many different ways. And this book is one of them. I had always dreamed of being an author. Quite frankly, that was my bigger dream, even than being a speaker. And so knowing that I could do it in this container where there was support, where there was mentorship, where there was coaching, but also where I could learn the ropes without having to own the ropes was really important to me. Our very first call, Ray asked us, why do you want to write this book? And I think it was a very powerful way to start our container of this authorship, because we weren't just doing it to say we wrote a book, right? Like, that's not a deep enough why to show up every Friday for 6 months, to cry, to scream, to yell, all of those things. And I remember, without really thinking about it, subconsciously what came out of my mouth was, my grandfather is the reason I want to be an author, in the sense of he really fostered my love of reading and my love of books from a very, very young age. And I said, almost in tears, I want to make sure that he sees me as an author before he dies. There was that accountability that not only am I just showing up for myself, but I'm showing up for all of the women in this book. We all started to find similar threads in our stories. So whenever someone was going through their piece of writing that story and they really needed extra support, that's what we all leaned into. And so that, I think, was the most transformative part for me as well, because I look back now and think, if I were told to go write that story by myself and just keep editing it until you feel good and turn it in, I don't know how far I would have actually gotten without that accountability each week. And so even in the 6-month container of writing this book, there were some of us who went through some really deep, dark times, and we didn't have to feel alone in those moments, because there was likely an author in this journey with me that had already been through what I was going through and could walk me through what the other side looked like when you get there. You're going to go back and revisit parts that you either didn't know were there or have subconsciously forgotten, or you may go back and process something for the very first time that you never did. And you need to know why that's important to you, because you're opening those potential wounds and old doors that have closed, not just for the women who will read this book at some point, but you're doing it for yourself too. And so what do you hope comes out of going back to revisit and talk about this story in a different light than you probably ever have in your life? So the very first pop-up event for the book was hosted in Atlanta, which is where my home is. I don't live there anymore, but that's where my family is. And I was able to give my grandfather a signed copy of the book, and to tell him I did it. Gabs is an author. I did it. All of those years that you fostered that in me mattered, and I did something with it. And unbeknownst to me, my grandfather turned around and told me that he knows his time is coming to an end, but that he is completely and totally at peace, and that he has accomplished every dream that he ever had for himself, and that he's okay. And it gave me a peace to say, I also am okay, because I have accomplished my number one dream now. And whatever else happens after this is all just icing on the cake. And it takes any fear of what could, should, would happen. It just takes it away. And there was a moment in one of our follow-up calls after the release where Ray said to us, you are now an internationally best-selling author, and it doesn't matter if you never go on to write another book, never go on to do anything else with your career, whatever your life may be, no one can take that away from you now. That is a part of your title. And that was the moment that I realized I had been holding myself back from fully leaning into what this book project meant, not just as a hobby or not just as something I did fun, but as something that's really transformative in my life.